They called themselves the Zeldar Dominion, hunters of worlds, conquerors of civilizations, and eaters of the weak. Across the galaxy, their name alone was enough to make species abandon their home planets. For 1,000 years, no one had dared resist them. They were known as the apex predators of the galaxy. Until they found a small, blue planet called Earth. It began like any other hunt. The Zeldar flagship, Vorax Pride, drifted through space with silent confidence. Commander Rithik, a towering being with 4 eyes and skin made of black scales, studied the holographic projection of Earth. His voice was deep and filled with arrogance. Primitive species. Carbon-based. No planetary shields. No warp drives. It will be over in one cycle. The crew laughed. To them, this was another easy kill. Their ships had crushed hundreds of worlds before. They expected Earth to fall the same way, fast and screaming. But this time, things would not go as planned. When the first Zeldar scout ship entered Earth's orbit, its sensors filled with static. Something was interfering, a strange electromagnetic pulse unlike anything recorded before. The ship's pilot tried to compensate, but before he could react, a beam of light shot from the planet's surface. The ship vanished. No explosion. No wreckage. Just gone. Commander Rithik frowned. "What was that?" he demanded. The communications officer struggled to speak. "Unknown energy signature, Commander. It came from a civilian area, a city called Houston." Rithik leaned forward. "A city destroyed us?" The crew fell silent. Within hours, 3 more scout ships were sent. Each vanished the same way. No wreckage. No signals. Just static and silence. Something was wrong with this planet. Still, Rithik was no coward. "They think they can hide? We'll show them who rules the stars." He ordered a full planetary strike. Thousands of plasma warheads rained down on Earth, or at least, that's what the Zeldar believed would happen. But as soon as the first missile entered the upper atmosphere, every single weapon detonated midair. Not by impact, but by some kind of invisible force. "Impossible!" shouted the weapons officer. "Something is disabling our systems remotely." Rithik stared at the blue planet through the view screen. Clouds swirled peacefully. Oceans sparkled. It looked harmless, but his instincts told him something was watching them. Then, a voice spoke through their communications channel. A human voice. Calm. Confident. "This is Commander Hayes of the United Terran Defense Network. You are trespassing in protected space. Leave orbit immediately, or you will be neutralized." The Zeldar bridge burst into laughter. Rithik grinned, showing his sharp fangs. "Neutralized? By humans?" He activated the channel. "This is Rithik of the Dominion. We are the end of worlds, the destroyers of empires. You dare threaten us?" There was silence for a few seconds. Then the human replied, "You've destroyed empires before, but not ours." At that exact moment, the Zeldar ship's lights flickered. Systems failed. Engines powered down. The massive warship began drifting helplessly above Earth. "Commander, we're losing power, shields offline, navigation unresponsive." Rithik slammed his claws into the console. How? The human voice returned, steady and cold. "We learned from watching you destroy others. You thought we were behind, but we evolved in silence. You thought we were prey, but we were preparing." Then, through the thick clouds, something emerged. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a ship. It was metal birds. Thousands of them, moving in perfect formation. Each small and agile, glowing with blue light. They swarmed around the Zeldar vessel like angry hornets. "Are those drones?" whispered one of the alien officers. Before Rithik could respond, the drones released concentrated beams of plasma that sliced through the ship's outer armor like paper. No warning. No mercy. Within minutes, the mighty flagship of the Zeldar Dominion was burning. As flames spread through the control deck, Rithik looked out at the blue planet below. His pride cracked for the first time in centuries. This cannot be. He managed to send one final transmission to the Dominion High Command before the ship exploded. Do not approach the blue world. They are not prey. They are hunters. Far below, in a dark underground base beneath Colorado, Commander Hayes watched the explosion on his screen. The humans around him stayed silent, their faces illuminated by the fading fire in orbit. Hayes spoke softly. They thought they were the apex predators. Let them learn otherwise. And somewhere in the depths of space, Rithik's warning signal echoed through the Dominion's communication network. The message repeated over and over. Do not come to Earth. But the Dominion never believed in fear. And soon, their entire fleet would arrive. Earth had won the first battle. The real war was just beginning. The Zeldar Dominion did not understand fear. For thousands of years, they had crushed every voice that spoke against them. To them, losing a ship was nothing. But losing Vorok's pride, their most powerful war vessel, was impossible to ignore. The Dominion's main fleet arrived 3 days later. 70 warships the size of cities entered the Sol system, forming a line of death across the darkness of space. Their hulls gleamed with crimson armor, each ship carrying weapons capable of burning continents. From the command bridge of the dreadnought Emperor's Claw, Lord Admiral Krall stared at the broken remains of Vorok's pride drifting above the blue planet. The wreck was torn apart, blackened and silent. Thousands of Zeldar bodies floated through the void. Krall's 4 eyes narrowed. Who did this? He asked, his voice a deep growl. Unknown, my lord, answered his science officer. Energy readings are inconsistent. No known civilization possesses this level of control. Krall's claws scraped against the metal floor. Primitive world, they said. Easy prey, they said. He turned toward the planet and snarled. Prepare the fleet. We will burn their world until nothing remains but ash. As the fleet powered their weapons, something unexpected happened. Every screen, every control system, every targeting array, shut down. Then, static. And then, a voice. The same calm, human voice that Rithik had heard before. This is Commander Hayes of the United Terran Defense Network. We warned you. Leave now. Krall growled. How dare you speak to us? He slammed his hand against the console. I will show you what happens when insects defy the Dominion. His ship's main cannon charged, a beam capable of vaporizing a moon. But before he could fire, the entire cannon core overheated and exploded from within. A wave of blue fire burst out, consuming the front of the ship. Krall was thrown backward. His crew screamed as alarms blared. How did they? Internal sabotage, my lord. Systems are being rewritten, shouted the engineer. On Earth, deep below the Rocky Mountains, Commander Hayes watched through a wall of holographic screens. The humans were calm, focused, their hands dancing over glowing consoles. Target lock confirmed, said one operator. Hayes nodded. Send the signal. High above, thousands of invisible satellites activated. They were small, some no bigger than a football, but together they formed a massive web around the planet. They didn't fire weapons. They manipulated code. They disrupted power. They hacked alien systems. Humans had always been good at one thing: adapting. One by one, Dominion ships lost control. Engines died. Cannons melted. Shield generators failed. Panic spread through the fleet. They are inside our systems, screamed one captain over the comms. Krall slammed his fist down. Find them. Destroy their source. But the humans were everywhere. Inside their communications, their software, even their ship sensors. The Dominion's strength had become their weakness. For the first time in centuries, the apex predators were being hunted. Still, Krall was not ready to retreat. If their machines can be broken, he roared, we will strike the planet directly. He ordered his remaining ships to launch drop pods, massive cylinders filled with Zeldar warriors, straight toward Earth. Thousands of pods ripped through the atmosphere, glowing red as they fell. Hayes watched silently. They're coming. In the forests of northern Canada, people looked up as fire streaked across the sky. Trees shook, and the ground cracked as the pods landed. Metal doors hissed open, and monstrous figures stepped out, 10 feet tall, armored in organic plating, carrying weapons that pulsed with violet energy. The invasion had begun. The Zeldar marched across the frozen ground, expecting to find weak resistance. Instead, they found nothing but silence. Then, from the shadows, came movement. Small shapes, fast, quiet, deadly. Human exosuits. Black armor, red visors, moving in complete synchronization. The Terran Ghost Division. Soldiers that didn't speak, didn't hesitate. They were humanity's answer to alien nightmares. One Zeldar roared and fired his plasma rifle. The shot hit a tree, and the tree exploded, but the human wasn't there anymore. The soldier appeared behind him, sliding under his weapon and planting a small device on his chest. A soft beep. Then white light. The alien vanished in a flash. Within minutes, the forest turned into chaos. Energy beams crossed through the night. The Zeldar fought with brute force, but the humans fought with precision, like hunters that had studied their prey for years. In orbit, Krall watched the live feed from his ground troops. "Report," he demanded. Silence. "Where are my soldiers?" Only static replied. Then, a single human transmission cut through the noise. "You sent your best hunters," said Hayes, his voice echoing through the Dominion channel. "Now they know what it feels like to be hunted." Krall's claws trembled with rage. "You think you can win a war against the Dominion?" Hayes looked at the blue sphere of Earth glowing below him and whispered, "We don't plan to win a war, Admiral. We plan to end it before it starts." Then, every satellite around Earth glowed white for 1 second. A wave of pure energy surged outward, silent and invisible. Every Zeldar ship caught in the radius went dark. Power drained, weapons dead, engines cold. In less than 5 minutes, the entire Dominion fleet was frozen in orbit. Paralyzed, helpless, trapped. Krall stared in disbelief. "No. Impossible." Hayes gave his final transmission. "Tell your Dominion, humanity is not prey." Then, communication cut off. Krall's ship floated in silence. The stars outside shimmered, and Earth glowed softly beneath them. Small, beautiful, untouchable. The apex predators had met their match. But Krall swore this was not the end. He turned to his officers. "Send word to the High Council. Prepare the war behemoth. If they want a war, we will give them extinction." Far below, Hayes stared at the stars and whispered, "Then we'll see who survives." The war for Earth had only just begun. For 3 weeks after the battle, the skies above Earth were quiet. The wrecks of alien ships drifted silently in orbit, like dead gods floating in the void. Humanity watched from below, amazed, terrified, and proud. The news called it the day the Predators fell. But Commander Hayes knew it wasn't over. The Dominion would never stop after losing their fleet. They would come back, stronger and angrier. And when they did, the real fight would begin. Inside the underground base in Colorado, the lights never went off. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked day and night. The world had united under one name, the United Terran Defense. Nations no longer mattered. Only survival did. One morning, alarms echoed through the base. "Long-range sensors picking up movement at the edge of the solar system," shouted a technician. Hayes rushed to the main screen. A massive shadow had appeared beyond Neptune. At first, they thought it was a moon. Then it moved. The shadow turned, revealing a structure so large it made entire planets look small. It wasn't a fleet. It was a single ship, a floating fortress covered in glowing crimson armor, with energy veins pulsing like blood. The name appeared on the screen, decoded from alien transmissions. The War Behemoth. Hayes stared in silence. They've brought their god. In the far reaches of space, aboard the war behemoth, Lord Admiral Krall stood before a hologram of the Dominion High Council. His body was still scarred from the last battle, but his eyes burned with hatred. "Earth must fall," said the eldest voice of the council. "You will make an example of them. Leave nothing alive." Krall bowed. "By the Dominion's blood, I swear it." The war behemoth began to move, slowly, deliberately, a planet of death heading straight for Earth. On Earth, Hayes gathered his top officers. "We can't fight that thing," said General Ruiz. "It's the size of a moon." Hayes nodded. "We don't fight it head-on. We make it bleed from the inside." He looked at the screen where the alien colossus glowed like a red sun. "We're sending a team aboard." Silence filled the room. "You mean inside that monster?" Ruiz asked. Hayes gave a thin smile. "Exactly. Before it reaches Earth." 3 days later, in the black emptiness near Saturn, a small Terran stealth ship glided through the shadows. Its name was Silent Dagger. On board were 5 soldiers, Ghost Division operatives, the same kind that had fought in Canada. Their leader, Captain Lyra Voss, checked her suit systems. "Once we're inside, we have 10 minutes before their scanners find us. Stay quiet. Stay invisible." The ship reached the behemoth's surface, a wall of dark metal stretching beyond sight. They fired magnetic anchors and pulled themselves toward it, attaching like ants on a sleeping giant. Using plasma cutters, they sliced through a weak point in the armor and slipped inside. The interior was a nightmare of alien technology. Corridors made of pulsing veins, walls that seemed alive, breathing softly. Every step echoed through the red-lit tunnels. "Command, we're in," whispered Lyra. Hayes' voice came through faintly. "Good. Plant the charge near the core and get out. Don't get caught." They moved deeper, passing giant tubes filled with blue liquid, and inside those tubes floated creatures, experiments, hybrids of human and Zelther. One soldier froze. "They're using us for something." Lyra clenched her jaw. "Keep moving." But the sound of footsteps stopped them. A figure appeared from the shadows, tall, armored, monstrous. A Zelthar guard. Its 4 eyes glowed like burning coals. Lyra didn't breathe. The alien passed by slowly, scanning the corridor. Then its head snapped toward them. "Run!" she shouted. The soldiers opened fire, blue plasma cutting through the dark. The alien roared and lunged, claws tearing through metal. One soldier went down screaming. Lyra fired her last shot and threw the core charge into a reactor conduit. "Detonator armed. We need extraction now." Outside, the Silent Dagger swooped back, dodging enemy fire. Hayes' voice crackled. "Hold on, we're pulling you out." The behemoth began to shake. Alarms blared in alien language. Krall looked up from his throne. "What is happening?" "Explosion in Sector 12, my lord. Unknown intruders." Krall snarled. "They dare invade my ship?" He slammed his fist on the command table. "Seal all sections. Find them." The Ghost Division raced through the burning corridors, heat rising like the heart of a volcano. One by one, they reached the outer hatch, except Lyra. "Go!" she shouted, pushing her last teammate forward. "Get that data to Earth." The door sealed behind her. Moments later, the war behemoth's intersection erupted in a storm of light. In Colorado, Hayes watched as the behemoth slowed down. "Direct hit on their main conduit," said a scientist. "Their power core is unstable." Hayes leaned closer. "Can we destroy it?" "Not yet. They're too far from the sun for a full overload." "Then we bring the sun to them." Everyone looked at him in confusion. Hayes smiled faintly. "Project Helios. Activate it." Deep in orbit, hidden behind the moon, humanity's secret weapon powered up, a solar cannon built from captured alien tech. Its lens began to glow, drawing energy directly from the sun itself. Far away, aboard the behemoth, Krall saw the beam charging. What are they doing? The war behemoth turned its massive cannons toward Earth, but before it could fire, a blinding ray of golden light pierced through the darkness and struck the alien fortress dead center. The explosion was silent at first, then it grew, red and gold, swallowing half the sky. When the light faded, the behemoth was gone. Only fragments drifted, glowing like dying embers. Hayes stood quietly. He didn't celebrate. She did it, he whispered. But as the debris faded, a small piece of the behemoth's core pulsed with light, still alive, still transmitting. Somewhere, across the galaxy, the Dominion High Council received the signal. Earth destroyed our behemoth, said one of the counselors. Another hissed. Then we send the Legion. The stars flickered. The war was far from over. The stars were quiet again. Earth had survived the impossible, twice. But deep in the void, silence was never safety. It was only the breath before the next storm. Commander Hayes stood on the roof of the underground base, looking up at the night sky. The air smelled of rain and metal. Above him, tiny dots of light moved slowly, fragments of the war behemoth still drifting in orbit. He felt no victory, only weight. Too many lives had been lost. Too many names now belonged to history. Behind him, General Ruiz stepped out of the elevator. You should rest, sir. Hayes didn't turn. Can't sleep when I know what's coming. Ruiz frowned. You think they'll try again? Hayes nodded slowly. They're the Dominion. They don't forgive. They erase. Light years away, on the Dominion homeworld of Va Rune, the High Council gathered inside a chamber that looked alive. The walls pulsed with energy, and shadows twisted around the counselors like living smoke. At the center, Lord Admiral Krall knelt before the Grand Speaker. His armor was cracked, his voice low. The humans destroyed the behemoth, my lord. But they have not destroyed our purpose. The Grand Speaker's voice was calm and cold. Then release the Legion. A murmur spread through the chamber. Even Krall looked up in disbelief. The Legion? Those creatures are unstable. They were never meant for war. The speaker's 4 eyes glowed faintly. They are meant for extinction. And that is what Earth will become. 3 months later, the first signs appeared. Strange objects entered Earth's atmosphere. Not ships, not meteors. They looked like seeds made of black metal. They landed silently in oceans, deserts, forests. Within hours, they began to grow. Each seed unfolded like a flower made of bone and steel. From their cores, creatures began to crawl out, tall, thin, moving like liquid shadows. Their skin shimmered between metal and flesh. Their eyes glowed red. Earth sensors picked up thousands. Then millions. The Legion had arrived. In the Colorado base, alarms screamed again. Hayes ran into the command center. Report. Lieutenant Mira pointed at the screen. They're everywhere, sir. Multiple landings across all continents. Communication lines going down. They're cutting us off. Deploy every defense network we have, Hayes ordered. Activate the orbital grid. We hold the line. In the streets of New York, the war began. Metal creatures poured out of glowing cracks in the ground, tearing through buildings. Tanks rolled in, jets screamed overhead, and human soldiers fought in the shadows of burning skyscrapers. The Legion didn't use weapons. They were weapons. Their bodies reshaped mid-battle, forming blades, shields, and even wings. Every time one fell, it melted into black mist and reformed somewhere else. People whispered that the monsters couldn't die. But humanity didn't stop fighting. High above the chaos, a Terran dropship raced through the storm. Inside, Captain Lyra Voss, the only Ghost Division survivor from the Behemoth mission, stared out the window at the flames below. She was supposed to be dead. Hayes had found her floating in space weeks after the explosion. Half her body was metal now, repaired by alien tech she didn't understand. She looked at her reflection, human eyes glowing faint blue. Let's finish what we started. The dropship dived toward the battlefield. In the command room, Hayes watched real-time feeds from every continent. His world map turned red, one city after another falling. "We can't keep this up," said Ruiz. "Even if we hold them, there are too many. It's only a matter of time." Hayes didn't answer. His mind was elsewhere. There was one last option, a message hidden deep in their data archives, received months before from an ancient satellite orbiting Jupiter. It wasn't human. It wasn't Dominion. It was older. Hayes turned to the technician. "Bring up Project Echo." The screen flickered, showing a transmission written in symbols no one had seen before. Then a voice spoke, soft and musical. "To the children of the blue world, if the hunters find you, seek the light beneath Europa." Hayes' eyes widened. They knew. "Who?" asked Ruiz. "The ones who came before," Hayes whispered. "The architects. The first species the Dominion ever feared." That night, a secret convoy left Earth, a fleet of cloaked Terran ships heading toward Jupiter's moon, Europa. Lyra led the mission. Hayes stayed behind to coordinate defenses. Before she left, he handed her a small data drive. "What's on it?" she asked. "Everything we know about them," Hayes said. "If we fall, someone has to survive." Lyra gripped his hand. "You won't fall." He smiled faintly. "Then make sure we don't." Meanwhile, deep beneath Europa's ice, something ancient waited. When Lyra's ship landed and her team drilled through the frozen surface, they found not water, but light, a massive city buried beneath the ice, glowing with blue energy. Structures that floated, machines that sang. As they stepped inside, a voice echoed in their minds. "We remember the Dominion. And we remember the day they ran." Lyra froze. "You can hear us?" "Yes," the voice said. "And we can help. But the price will be high." Back on Earth, the Legion advanced. Cities burned. Oceans boiled. Hayes watched as the last line of satellites fell from orbit. Ruiz shouted over the alarms, "We're losing control." Hayes whispered, "Then we trust them." He looked at the stars, toward Jupiter, and said quietly, "Bring the architects online." Far away, beneath the ice, Europa began to glow brighter, a pulse of ancient power awakening. The Dominion's Legion paused for the first time, as if something vast and unseen had turned its gaze toward them. And in that moment, even the apex predators felt fear. Europa's ice shone like a second sun. Captain Lyra Voss stood at the edge of a glowing abyss, staring down at the city beneath the frozen surface. The light pulsed gently, almost alive, breathing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The voice in her mind spoke again, calm and endless. "You are the children of the blue world. You seek the architects." Lyra swallowed. "If you can hear me, we need help. Earth is dying." The ice cracked under her boots, and from below, a shape rose, tall, luminous and shifting like water. It wasn't made of flesh or metal but something between both. "We remember the Dominion," the being said. "They were our creation once, and our mistake." Lyra blinked. "You created them. Long ago. They were meant to guard life, not destroy it. But power made them hungry. When they turned against us, we vanished into the dark. We never thought they'd find your kind." Lyra took a step forward. "Then help us end them." For a long time, the being didn't answer. The only sound was the hum of the frozen city. Finally it said, "There is one weapon, the Light Forge. It can erase the Dominion completely. But its energy comes from life itself. A world must give its heart to power it." Lyra's chest tightened. "You mean, a planet must die?" "Yes," the voice replied softly. "Balance demands sacrifice." Back on Earth, Commander Hayes sat in the dim war room. The map of the world was almost fully read. The Legion's presence stretched across every continent. General Ruiz spoke hoarsely, "They've taken half the planet. Asia's dark. Africa's silent. We can't hold much longer." Hayes rubbed his eyes. We just need time. Lyra will find something. As if answering him, a transmission cut through the static. This is Voss. I found the architects. The room went silent. Her voice came through weak but clear. They have a weapon that can stop the Dominion. But it needs a planetary energy source. They said it has to be sacrificed. Hayes stared at the screen. Sacrificed how? Destroyed, she whispered. The weapon must absorb a world's life force. No one spoke. The hum of the machines felt deafening. Hayes finally said, "And if that world is Earth?" Lyra didn't answer. The silence was enough. Far away, in Dominion space, Krall stood aboard his new flagship, the Tyrant Star. Below him, the Legion gathered, now fused into a single living swarm that covered entire planets. "Report," he commanded. "The behemoth's remains are gone," said his aide. "But a new energy signal has appeared near Jupiter. Ancient. Unknown." Krall smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "The humans have awakened something old. Good. Let them. We'll burn it too." He raised his claws. "Set course for Sol. Prepare the Legion." Under Europa's ice, the architects gathered around Lyra's team. A glowing sphere formed between them, bright, silent, heavy with power. "This is the seed of the Light Forge," they said. "Take it to your world. Place it in the heart of your planet. It will decide your fate." Lyra hesitated. "If we use it, Earth dies? If you do nothing, all life dies. Choose your ending." The sphere floated toward her, weightless yet terrifying. Lyra took it. It pulsed once, and she felt it in her bones, like holding a living sun. Hours later, her ship broke through Europa's orbit, heading back to Earth. The radio filled with cries for help, distress calls, static. She looked down at the glowing sphere in her hands. "You better be worth it," she whispered. In the Colorado base, Hayes looked at the sky feed. The Dominion fleet had arrived again. The stars disappeared behind their black ships. "This is it," Ruiz said quietly. Hayes nodded. "Then let's make it count." He turned to the communications officer. "Patch me through to all channels." A moment later, his voice echoed across every surviving frequency on Earth. "This is Commander Hayes of the United Terran Defense. The Dominion is here. You know what we're fighting for. If this is our last day, make it one they'll never forget." Above the planet, the Tyrant Star opened its core, a glowing storm ready to consume the world. Krall watched the blue sphere below and growled, "End it." But before his command could echo, Lyra's ship appeared, small, fragile, and burning through the atmosphere. "Hayes, this is Voss," she shouted. "I'm coming in hot. Tell your people to clear the energy lines. I have the forge." The command room shook as the ship plunged toward the surface. "Where are you landing?" Hayes shouted. "The old crater in the Pacific. It's deep enough." She hit the ocean like a meteor. The sea rose in waves miles high, lightning splitting the sky. In the depths, the glowing sphere sank, merging with the Earth's mantle. For a second, nothing happened. Then the planet itself began to glow. Mountains shook. Oceans boiled. The core pulsed like a living heart. Krall's fleet stopped firing. "What are they doing?" he demanded. Sensors flared. Unstable readings, power levels beyond scale. Hayes stood on the command deck, eyes fixed on the trembling screens. She did it. The light forge awoke. Beams of pure white energy shot upward through the clouds, piercing the Dominion ships one by one. Each vessel turned to ash without sound. The sky burned brighter than the sun. Krall screamed as his flagship disintegrated. But on Earth, the light didn't stop. The oceans lifted, cities cracked, the air turned into fire. Lyra's last message echoed through the comms. "Tell them, we were never prey." And then, silence. When the light faded, half the solar system was gone. Where Earth once was, there floated a sphere of golden dust, glowing softly, Not dead, but changing. From far away, the architects watched in silence. They chose sacrifice, one whispered. Perhaps, in time, life will return. And in the dust, small sparks began to gather, pieces of something new. The war ended in silence. No explosions. No cries of victory. Just the quiet hum of dust drifting through space where Earth once glowed blue. In that golden haze, fragments of metal, stone, and bone floated weightlessly. The light-forged energy still shimmered, wild, untamed, alive. From a distance, it looked like a sunrise frozen in time. But deep within the dust cloud, something stirred. Far beyond the solar system, in the cold shadows of the Dominion core worlds, fear spread like infection. The tyrant star was gone. Their supreme overlord Krull, erased. Entire fleets, disconnected from command, hovered aimlessly. Millions of Dominion soldiers waited for orders that would never come. The lesser species who had once cowered before them now whispered. The humans did it. They burned their own world to kill the gods. And the whispers turned to defiance. Slave worlds began to rebel. Dominion statues fell. Their empire began to crack. On Europa, the ancient architects gathered again, their forms flickering like candlelight. They gazed at the distant golden cloud that had once been Earth. The forge completed its purpose, one said. But its heart still beats. Life resists, even in ruin. Another replied, we should guide it, before chaos consumes it. They extended their hands, weaving threads of pure light that stretched across space, reaching into the debris, whispering to the fragments of Earth's soul. Rise again, they murmured. The story is not over. Inside the golden cloud, something pulsed. A faint blue spark. Then, another. Tiny motes of light began to swirl together, fragments of memory, DNA, and digital ghosts. Pieces of human will. Pieces of love. Pieces of rage. And from that chaos, a shape began to form. Not a planet. Not yet. But a world being reborn, its gravity slowly pulling the dust inward, its core glowing white-hot. In the center of it, something moved. A cry, faint, mechanical, human. A pod, scarred and burnt, drifted through the debris. Inside, frost covered a single figure. Her heartbeat was weak, but present. Captain Lyra Voss. Days passed. Weeks. She awoke to silence. Her visor cracked. Oxygen low. Outside, there was no sky, only golden light. Haze. She whispered. Anyone? No response. Just the faint hum of energy outside her pod. Then she saw it, strands of light, moving like living creatures, wrapping around her ship. They pulsed, and her systems came online one by one. Life sign detected. Power restored. Unknown energy source connected. Lyra stared as the golden strands entered her cabin, wrapping around her wrist like warm air. A voice echoed in her mind, calm, familiar, ancient. Child of Earth. You are not gone. The Forge chose you. She gasped. The architects. Yes. You carry the seed of your world. In you lies the pattern of rebirth. Her breath trembled. Rebirth. The Forge consumed your planet, but its essence remains, within you. You can bring it back. Lyra looked down at her hand. The light was seeping into her veins, glowing under her skin. Her heartbeat synchronized with the pulse of the golden storm outside. She whispered, "Then let's finish what we started." Back in the galaxy, chaos reigned. Without Krull's control, the Dominion turned on itself. Whole sectors burned as warlords fought for scraps of power. On one world, a rebellion broadcast a signal to every corner of the void. The humans sacrificed everything, and won. The Dominion can bleed. The monsters can fall. Rise. And one by one, systems began to light up with new flags, the mark of resistance. Months later, a beacon lit up in the solar system. The golden cloud began to shrink, its light condensing into a single point. Lyra floated in orbit, surrounded by the glow, her pod tethered to the growing sphere. Each beat of her heart sent waves of energy through the dust, shaping continents, oceans, skies. It was slow, painful, but alive. A new world began to form. Smaller than Earth. Younger. But filled with strange beauty. The oceans glowed faint blue. Mountains rose like glass. And at its core, a white flame burned, the heart of the Lightforge, still alive. Lyra named it softly. Nova Terra. From afar, the architects watched and whispered. They lost their world but found their purpose. They were never prey. And across the fractured galaxy, beings of 1,000 races looked up at the same new star that shone where Earth once was, and they felt something they hadn't in centuries. Hope. The voice in Lyra's mind spoke one last time. You are the bridge now. Between what was, and what will be. She smiled faintly. Then let's make sure they remember us right. Her pod descended slowly through the glowing sky of Nova Terra. The air shimmered with life. The soil pulsed with light. Humanity's ashes had become the seeds of something greater. And in the endless night of the galaxy, the story of Earth's children was far from over. 1,000 years had passed since Earth turned to dust. But legends never die. They evolve. Across the galaxy, the name human had become myth. Some said they were angels forged from fire. Others whispered they were demons who burned their own world to kill the gods. The truth was stranger. On the new world of Nova Terra, humanity had risen again. The air glowed with quiet light, the oceans shimmered like liquid stars, and the people who walked the land carried fragments of ancient memory in their DNA. They were faster, smarter, connected to the energy of the Lightforge that pulsed deep beneath the planet's crust. They no longer built empires. They built harmony. But peace never lasts. One cold dawn, the sky cracked open. Massive shadows appeared above the atmosphere. Ships unlike any seen before. They weren't Dominion. They weren't human. They were something else. The alarms of Nova Terra blared for the first time in centuries. Commander Lyra Voss, the same woman who had watched Earth die and Nova Terra be born, stood on the balcony of the rebuilt Terran citadel. She was older now, her eyes silver from the forge energy flowing through her veins. Who are they? She asked quietly. Her second-in-command, Kale, stared at the scanners. They're not using Dominion frequencies. Their signatures are ancient. Older than the architects. The largest of the ships opened, releasing a slow pulse that rippled through space and made every sensor fail. Then, a voice, deep, calm, and not mechanical, filled the airwaves. Children of the lost world. You have awakened the forge. You were never meant to. Lyra clenched her fists. Identify yourself. We are the Eidolon Council. We built the architects. We seeded the first stars. And you, little humans, have touched what you cannot control. Kale's eyes widened. They created the architects. The forge was a prison, the voice continued. Not a gift. It was meant to contain the energy of extinction. When your kind unleashed it, you freed what sleeps inside. Lyra stepped closer to the transmitter. You mean the light forge? No. We mean the echo within, the mind of creation itself. It is awake, and it hungers. The transmission ended. The sky darkened. From the upper atmosphere, golden clouds began to twist. Lightning arcs flashed in silence. And then, something stepped out of the storm. A figure, massive and radiant, shaped like a human but larger than any mountain. Its body was made of light and shadow both, its eyes burning white. Lyra stared in shock. What is that? Kale whispered. It's not a ship, it's alive. The being's voice thundered through every mind on Nova Terra. I was once your sun, your sky, your god. You burned yourselves to wake me. I am the memory of every world you destroyed. I am what comes after. The people of Nova Terra fell to their knees. Their systems began to fail, the forge energy surging out of control. Mountains cracked, oceans boiled, and the stars themselves seemed to dim. But Lyra didn't bow. She walked out onto the citadel's platform, wind tearing at her uniform, her eyes glowing brighter with every step. "Listen to me," she said, her voice echoing through the storm. "We didn't survive extinction to become slaves again. We made mistakes, yes. But we learn. We endure. That's what makes us human." The giant's voice rumbled, almost curious. "Endure." She nodded. "You think power defines life. But it's the will to change that keeps it alive. You call yourself creation. Then watch us create." She raised her hands, and the forge responded. The ground lit up with a web of blue fire. Every living human on Nova Terra felt the call. From children to elders, they reached toward the sky, their life energy merging into a storm of light. Together, they formed a sphere of energy that surrounded the entire planet, the Nova Shield. The creature struck, unleashing cosmic fire, but the light held. Every time it attacked, humanity's collective will grew stronger. The energy of billions united into one blazing pulse. Lyra's voice echoed through the chaos. "Earth fell once. We won't fall again." And with one final surge, the Nova Shield burst outward, tearing through the clouds and striking the creature square in the chest. The explosion was silent, but endless. Light consumed the sky, stretching across the void like a new dawn. When the glow faded, the creature was gone. Only a single whisper remained. "Perhaps you are the true apex." Weeks passed. The Eidolon Council vanished, their ships retreating beyond known space. Nova Terra floated peacefully once more. In the sky, a new sun burned, smaller, gentler, its light golden. Lyra watched it rise from her balcony, her heart heavy but proud. Kale approached. "Do you think it's over?" She smiled faintly. "For now. But the universe always tests what it fears most." Kale looked at her. "And what does the universe fear?" She turned her gaze to the glowing horizon. "Us." Far away, beyond galaxies and black holes, a lone probe drifted silently through the dark. Its core pulsed faintly with blue light. A signal repeated endlessly, carrying humanity's legacy across eternity. "We are the children of Earth. We burned, we rebuilt, we rose again. To any who find this, remember, we were never prey." The signal continued, echoing through time until even the stars themselves seemed to listen. And somewhere, deep in the cosmic dark, something smiled. The story of Earth had ended. The story of humanity had just begun. Fire the end fire.